There are many churches there.
Thank you, sir.
So,
Thank you. Bye-bye. Finally made it to the top of this mountain, but hopefully it's going to be worth it. This is the largest monastery complex in Azerbaijan. It's known locally as the Seven Churches, but apparently there's even more than that here. It's also the site of a monastery. It's a vast complex at the top of this mountain. So I'm going to meet a local expert and he's going to tell me all about it. I'm at the monastery complex now and I'm waiting for the expert, Dr. Natek. Hopefully he should be here soon to explain everything I'm seeing. And actually, I can hear him now. Hello. How come you came by car?
It's a
Nice to
different,
meet you.
different way.
I came on foot.
The mountains is the way is no good.
Ah,
that's why.
okay. Well, hopefully you can tell me all about this now. Yeah?
A magnificent religious site that has come down to us from Caucasian Albania is to be found in Leket Kotokla village in the Gakh region of Azerbaijan. The Yedi Kilsa monastery complex comprises 9 churches and church-type constructions. There are 2 5th to 6th century basilica-type churches within the complex, which is believed to have functioned until the 12th century. In architectural style, Yedi Kilsa is similar to the Agoklan church in the Lachen region of Azerbaijan, the Gum Basilica type church in the Gakh region, and the Tezaken Basilica in the Akshabadi region.
I'm hoping you can help me with some questions I have about the churches. I've been told that the Christians who believed that Jesus was divine and the Christians who believed that Jesus was divine and a man, they had different churches?
Albaniya'da arasında varmış arkeolojik kazıntılar var.
The special features of the altars in Albanian churches were discovered during archaeological excavations in ancient Gabala in Azerbaijan. These differences are mostly connected to the fact that the altar was 50 centimeters above the floor. Albanian churches with these altars were diophysitist. Diophysitist altars had an altar borderline and were thus different from those in monophysitist churches, whose altars are known to be 70 centimeters or 1 meter above the floor. According to the Albanian historian Moise Kalan-Katokla, the Catholicos Nurses Bahu, who came to Albania as a monophysite, later changed his confession to diophysitism and ordered the destruction of most of the monophysitist altars in Albanian churches. This fact also proves that when confessions changed in Caucasian Albania, the forms of the church altars were also changed. Circular temples are to be found among examples of Caucasian Albanian architecture. Researchers think that these temples were built by Albanians who prayed to the moon, the sun, and celestial bodies before fully adopting Christianity, and that they were used later as Christian churches. The basilicas and monasteries are considered to be the best constructions of the Albanian period. We note that Albanian monastery construction was not confined to within the country's borders, but also spread to Jerusalem. Albanian historian Moise Kalankatakla wrote that one could find the names of Albanian monasteries built in the Holy City. Not even the Arabs themselves could imagine that the Caliphate state, founded by the newly born religion in the Arabic steppes in the 7th century, would grow to challenge global powers such as the Sassanids and Byzantines. However, it did happen, and its influence was also exerted in the Caucasus. Soon enough, the political confrontation turned badly for the Albanians. The Arab Caliphate challenged the authority of Diophysitist Byzantium and chose to support monophysitism, continuing the Sassanid tradition. After the death of the Albanian king Javanshir in 681, monophysitism was the rule in Albanian Catholicos churches. This not only weakened their position, but also served to strengthen the Armenian church competing for authority in the region. After the Arabs had seen off the Sassanid Empire, they took on the Byzantine Empire for political hegemony in the South Caucasus. At this time, the Albanian king Varaz Tiridat and his sons were hostages of the Roman emperor in Byzantium. Varaz Tiridat's wife, Sparama, supported the Albanian Catholicos nurses' switch to Diophysitism to secure the release of her husband and children from Byzantine captivity. Thus, Catholicos nurses announced a switch back to Diophysitism in 701. However, this decision was not welcomed by church officials under Gregorian influence, and there was discontent within the state. The Armenian Catholicos, Ilya, took advantage of the situation to make the Albanian church dependent on the Armenian church. He wrote to the Arab Caliph, Abdul Malik, that Byzantine supporters were rising in Albania. The Caliph came down in favor of the Armenian Catholicos and ordered that nurses be imprisoned. Unable to withstand the torture inflicted, nurses died. In 704, the Barda Church Council announced the union of two independent churches, the Albanian and Armenian churches. After the Barda Council, Varaz Tiridat returned to Albania and resumed his rule. Thus, the official fall of the Caucasus Albania was not caused by the Barda Council of 704. The Albanian historian Moise Kalankatakla noted that monophysitist Simeon, who was appointed Albanian Catholicos after Nurses Bakur's death, ordered that all books relating to Diophysitism in the library of the Albanian church be thrown into the Turta, now Terter, river. In fact, the destruction of these books was the destruction of the history of a nation, not simply of a confession. Such systematic obliteration prevented the centuries-old Albanian literature and alphabet from coming down to us. Kalankatakla's book, The History of Albania, was originally written in Albanian, but later translated into Grabar, which is in no way similar to modern-day Armenian. This book includes the agreement between the Albanian Catholicos and the Armenian Church that provided that the Albanian and Armenian churches should have the other's approval in appointing the Catholicos. The document also indicated that the Albanian Church was older than the Armenian. The Albanian altar is higher and older than the Armenian altar. The Albanian Church that was higher and older than the Armenian Church was then brought to dependence on the Armenian Church with pressure and support from the Arab Caliph from 704. However, this process lasted only until the end of the 9th century, when the Arab Caliphate weakened. We have also seen proof that the Albanian Church led an independent policy afterwards.
876 yılda
The revolt, which has gone down in history as the Samuel and Misael revolt, occurred in 876. Samuel, who was chosen to be Albanian Catholicos, refused to go to the city of Dvin to be approved and began work without the approval of the Armenian Catholicos. The revolt, which lasted a year, ended when Samuel was reluctantly persuaded to go to Dvin in 877, when he was approved. After that, a number of Albanian Catholicoses followed Samuel's example and worked as Catholicoses without prior approval from the Armenian Catholicos, and they refused to recognize the authority of the Armenian Church over the Albanian Church. In later periods, the Armenian Church, in its opposition to Diophysitism, tried to have Albanian clerics removed from their positions and began Gregorianizing the Albanian population that lived in the mountainous areas away from Arab influence. All this led to the gradual disappearance of the Albanian Aran languages, spoken in and around Barda, back in the 10th century, as witnessed by Arab writers, as well as Albanian literature. Many researchers who have studied the ethnic identities of the population of Karabakh and surrounding areas say that, distinctly from the migrant Armenians, most of the population comprised ethnic groups that were Turkic and Caucasian by origin, language, and culture. The Gregorianization of the Albanian Church and the Albanians gained further impetus after the 15th century. Thus, the transfer of the Armenian Church in 1441 from eastern Anatolia into present-day Armenian, but historically Azerbaijani, lands to the territory called Uch-Kilsa, 3 churches, reinforced this process. As the opportunity arose, the Armenian Church gained control of Albanian Church lands and tried to Gregorianize them, and Uch-Kilsa became Echmirazin in Armenian. The Albanian, in other words the Gandasasar Catholicos, functioned until the early 19th century and followed an independent policy which competed with that of the Echmirazin Church. The Armenian Church waited for a good opportunity to crush the Albanian Church. This time, the opportunity came from the north. As Tsarist Russia engaged in struggle with Iran and Turkey for the Caucasus, this upset the political, cultural, and ethnic balance in the region. Russia took northern Azerbaijan, the old Albanian territories, and implemented several measures to plant loyal forces there. Thus, the Russian Empire moved tens of thousands of Armenian families from Iranian and Turkish lands to the Yerevan, Karabakh, and Nakhchivan Khanates. This policy also proved crucial to the fates of the Gregorianized Albanians in the mountainous parts of Karabakh. Their Armenianization entered its final stage. Thus, the fact that the incoming Armenians greatly outnumbered the Christian Albanian population in Karabakh substantially weakened the position of the Albanian Church in the region. However, it is also important to note that before the Armenians were moved there, the Albanian Christian population of the mountainous part of Karabakh still called themselves Albanians in a letter to the Russian Tsar Peter I. Thus, they did not consider themselves to be Armenian in the early 18th century. Following the appearance of Russia in the region, Armenians migrated to the territories of Georgia and Caucasian Albania. Some settled in Nagorno-Karabakh and others in Samtsehe-Javaheti in southern Georgia. The last migration occurred in 1915 when Armenians settled on lands that were historically Azerbaijani and Georgian. The Albanian Apostolic Church that had functioned since the 4th century ceased to exist in 1836. The objects and documents that remained and preserved Albanian religious and cultural heritage were moved to Echmirazin Church and Petersburg and were lost without trace. The destruction of the religious and historic objects and documents of the Albanian Church, which were kept in the religious archives by a decree on the destruction of unnecessary documents of the Russian Synod of 1910 to 1911, was the final blow to the spiritual heritage of the Caucasian Albanians. In 1836, by decree of Tsar Nikolai I and the Holy Synod, The Albanian Church was forced to join the Armenian Church as one of its eparchies. Armenian historians and politicians today declare pure Albanian churches to be Armenian. The Albanian Church has its own history. It was autocephalous, an independent church. There are traces in many Azerbaijani regions of the Turk and Albanian tribes who had significant roles in the ethnogeny of modern-day Azerbaijan. However, there is one place in Azerbaijan that can be regarded as a small example of ancient Caucasian Albania. We are on the way to the land of Udis, the successors of the Utis, one of the 26 tribes of Caucasian Albania.
Today we're going to meet the community leaders of a group of Christians here called the Udis. Very ancient community here, goes way back to the beginnings of Christianity in the region. We're going to be meeting the church leaders, we're going to go and see their church that they're restoring. We're going to find out really the history of them, because it's not something that I knew about and not many people will know about it. So it'll be really fascinating to find out where they fit into the history of Azerbaijan and the history of the whole area.
The Udis, who are the ancient Christian population of Caucasian Albania, now live in Aarhus and in the Nij district of Gabala. They have preserved still their religious views. Of course, the tolerance that Azerbaijan is known for has also played its part.